Should be live now.
Yeah, excellent, mate. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this back. I hope we're all well. Good morning, Hatham. Thank
Good
you for jumping
morning.
on with us this morning, buddy.
How do?
All good, mate. All good. What is
Good.
happening through Sunderland way?
Not a lot. Just looked like we had an actual meeting yesterday, face to face, and people came in. That was
Oh,
about it.
wow. Wow.
So
Yeah,
that's all we
exciting
managed.
times. Do you know what though? It's such a big even that within certain places is such a big change at the minute, like
Yeah.
we had the other day we had a electrician due to come round and do some bits on the house,
Yeah.
and the front door lock went on the same day, so we had a couple of locksmiths round as well. Mate, it's the most people I've had in the house for about a year. Do you know what I mean? Puppy was going absolutely mental, but of course it's a good chance to socialise in as well a little
Definitely.
bit.
You don't want them to
But
be scared of people.
well, that's it. That's it, but I'm sure it's going to take a little bit of getting used to for some of us as well, the what would have been normality at one point, as we are sort of moving in that direction again. Hopefully, touch wood, it's a one-way street and there's no real going back over,
Yeah.
as long as everything's done safely and sort of like time specific. But yeah, I think there is a certain degree of like, we'll have to just get used to things again at our own pace, some of us more than others.
I mean,
Because,
some people are still shielding as well, aren't they? So,
well, exactly, yeah, some people have actually lived totally alone for the last year. I've been very fortunate that I've had my partner with me, while obviously we've been in lockdown and stuff like that. But for some people, it'll be a massive change from like living by themselves,
yeah.
pretty much 24/7 to, oh, okay, I'm surrounded by people again all of a sudden.
Aye.
Can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, a lot of noise, a lot of stimulation going on when you haven't had it for a little while, so it's just something to think about. Of course, it is all absolutely amazing news that we're going in that direction again. I know the sports are back. I know the pubs are
Yeah.
open again, just in time for the rainiest bank holiday we've had
I
for as long as
know.
I can remember. Yeah, typical, isn't it? It's
Mind
absolutely
you,
typical.
Sunday was actually all right. I think we got away with. Well, it wasn't in Shields anyway. Like it was
Yeah.
cloudy and it
Hmm.
like drizzled a tiny bit, but I think on the whole Sunday was all right. Monday was just a complete downpour.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the same over here Monday and yesterday, truth be told, mate.
Yeah,
Truth be told, it was one of them where, like, as much as I wanted to go for a walk, I knew like 5 minutes in I'd have changed my mind. Like, so
yeah,
just had a little bit
definitely.
of a stretching day yesterday. Just took it nice and easy, But of course, like we were just sort of mentioning before we sort of came live, gyms and stuff are opening up again now, aren't they? And
Yeah,
of course we've got different facilities. I haven't actually seen any being advertised or anything like that, but I'm sure fitness classes are back now as well. Again, especially outdoors
I
ones.
was gonna say I think a
As the
lot of
weather's
them.
changing.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are outdoors, but with like some kind of like it's like a canopy over the top or whatever.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, just like a little bit, just to give you
like
a
a
little bit of
gazebo
protection. Yeah,
type thing. Yeah,
a
seen
fitness
a few.
gazebo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seen all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Right then, so we are diving back in. We're on week 9, so we've only got next week still to do.
Yeah,
Um, so if we can just go next slide, please, buddy. A
yeah,
little bit of a recap from last week. We sort of looked at and touched on different components of fitness again, different types of fitness testing, how we carry that out. Of course, making sure that we're trying to assess and test the right thing. I sort of mentioned last week, if you're trying to test somebody's flexibility, getting them to go and run 1500 meters isn't going to really give you that information. That's going to let you know more their aerobic endurance, that sort of thing. Maybe muscular endurance a little bit, but then of course we wouldn't actually be testing the thing that we were trying to. So yeah, just trying to make sure that we're testing the component in the area that we're trying to test, tracking it, making a note of that data so we can sort of refer back to it. But we also sort of came around, and it links in with what we're doing today as well, where we're talking about sort of staying professional, helping someone be comfortable while you're carrying out their fitness test, because it's not the most naturally relaxing setting, to maybe have someone sort of poking areas that you're a little bit conscious about. And when sort of mentioned last week, if you've come to the gym to lose a couple of stone before a heart bypass or an operation that you need to do, the last thing you want the sort of instructor to do, sort of grab the skin fold calipers and start grabbing your waist, you know what I mean, and start grabbing your side. That's just going to put people off, and it's going to because really you're doing them a favor, of course, and it's almost like a human servicing or like a human MOT, isn't it? To be able to say, right, okay, flexibility could do with a little bit of work. Your endurance or your aerobic endurance isn't quite where you've told me you'd like it to be. And the last thing we want to do is actually put people off coming and getting that service. You know, it was something that absolutely baffled me when I was working in fact, I'll not say what gym it was just in case. But I was working in one gym once upon a time, yeah. And I was trying to, it was a little bit of like a recruitment method from me as well, but I was trying to just offer all the gym members a free fitness test because it was something that the gym didn't offer. Now, I printed off a sign-up sheet, left it on the front desk, and it was obviously for people to come along, leave their details on, and they wouldn't actually let me do that. I was told I wasn't allowed to do that because it was all the PTs were self-employed, and if I was doing it, other PTs were going to want to do it, and all of a sudden you've got members saying, why is there 4 different fitness tests that I can sign up for, all done by different PTs that are all getting done in a different way? So, you know, it was kind of one of them things. It was frustrating because it was something that you as a fitness instructor, like I say, you just want people to get the most out of their gym membership, to get the most out of their time, and like I say, something like a fitness assessment or a fitness test can give you a really good idea of where you're starting, you know. And sometimes you can surprise yourself. Actually, I've had people actually do fitness tests who have told me that they're not fit enough for PT, you know, or they feel that they're not fit enough for PT. And then, you know, I've done their BMI, I've done maybe sort of sit and reach tests, I've done maybe sort of step tests where you're seeing how many times you can get on and off a step in 60 seconds to track sort of, like I say, that aerobic endurance. And they've actually surprised themselves a little bit with how well they're doing, especially when I can say, okay, this is actually average, you know, this is above average for your age range or whatever. So it's a really good insight because really, obviously we've mentioned before, all inductions in gyms are different. So you go down to the gym, you join up, and then it's like, right, where do I start from here? Where do I go from here? You know, where's my weaknesses? And we've talked quite a lot about self-reflection and not really just relying on your strengths. Because if you're really good at something and you just go and do that again and again and again, yeah, you're going to get better at those aspects, but you're not rounding off your skill set. You know, there's, like I say, we need that sort of holistic approach. We need to be hitting all of these areas. Especially for general fitness, you know, it's one thing if you're a bodybuilder and you're planning on getting on stage, you know, I would say everything really fitness wise is going to be set up to get you in the best physical state on that day. You know, it's not necessarily about making sure you've got a whole, like I say, a rounded skill set of flexibility, endurance, mobility, that sort of thing. Because I don't know if you've ever seen them, actually, sort of videos going around like on social media, where there was one in particular that I saw where there was this guy that was a bodybuilder, and a bloke had put like a sock in the middle of his back, and this bodybuilder was trying to get it off, but because of his lack of mobility and just because of like the size and the bulkiness of him, he couldn't actually get his hand up his back to get this
couldn't get that shoulder.
He couldn't get there, you know. So again, them guys are training twice a day, they're eating 6 times a day, they're sleeping 3 times a day. They maybe don't have as much time as we'd like to sit and have, you know, a nice little stretch off and do a little bit of yoga or whatever, because it's all geared towards their profession. And I think that's what a lot of people forget when they come to the gym. Like 99% of us are just doing it for general fitness. You know, it's not to be really extremely sort of leaning towards one aspect of fitness. You know, we do it, like I say, for general fitness because we want to be feeling better day to day. We want more energy. We want our joints and our bones and our muscles to last longer, you know, as we age. So we want a really sort of holistic approach, and coming into the gym without much of an idea, like I say, you can just sort of end up getting dragged into what other people are doing. You know I certainly did when I joined the gym. I just sort of joined in with my mate. My mate had been going for a while. I went along and just started doing what he was doing. You know, he was doing strength training. Which sort of I got a lot of benefit from. But, you know, I went away and did my qualification and thought, oh, do you know what? Like, I'm training to put a little bit of weight on, but I'm not doing any hypertrophy training. Do you know what I mean? So again, that was a year into my training. Whereas if I'd have just had somebody that I felt comfortable with from day one, a gym like a member of staff, a fitness instructor, they might have been able to say to us like, Do you know what I mean? If I felt comfortable with them, they might say, well, why don't you try doing this? Why don't you try doing that? So like I say, we really want to make sure that as the instructor, we're making that gym member or client feel as comfortable as possible. So we're just going to have a little bit of a dive into that as well this week. So if we can go next slide, please, dude.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we're going to cover today. So pretty much.
Sue's in the chat, by the way. She was saying.
Oh, morning, Sue. Thanks for dropping in. I know you. So I know you'd mentioned trying to get booked in for a swim. Actually, like I said, just keep us updated. Let us know how you're getting on with that, because I am keen to find out what's going on in leisure centres, swimming baths, all of that sort of stuff at the minute. So yeah, definitely let us know. So the plan for today is going to be looking at it in quite a broad sense. We're looking at the skills that it takes to plan and then execute an activity. The old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's one of them. It applies in a gym. If you go into a gym with a plan to follow, or an idea what it is that you're going to do, you're going to be a lot more successful than getting on the gym floor and going, okay, where am I going to start the day? What's free? What can I get on? Right now I'm going to start. I'm through the turnstile, but I'm going to pick now to start Googling what session I'm going to follow on, like bodybuilding.com or something like that. So you're already kind of eating into your time as well. So
to be fair to websites like that as well, like they're not always necessarily all about like strength training and looking like Arnie or whatever. They do actually they offer like quite good things about like, well, what you're trying to do and here's how you do it.
Yeah,
you can work out, like, if you want to lose weight, they have a calculator on there. If you want to gain weight, they have a calculator on there for like what you need to eat and stuff. And
it is a pretty good resource, actually. Yeah,
I wouldn't be put off by like just doing a bit of research online yourself, and then maybe take that to your PT and say, well, I've had a look at this. What do you think? And they might be thinking, hang on, no, that's totally wrong. You've missed the point. Or they might be like, yeah, okay, I can give you a program for that.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Like you say, but that is a really good point, because even if like it's wrong and they maybe have missed a sort of principle that is actually embedded in that training. It shows initiative, it shows interest. Do you know what I mean? For me, that there was nothing sort of used to drive it home to me more that a client was fully engaged in the program outside the gym. It's because it's one thing to work for the 1 hour that you're with a PT. What you do in the other 23 hours of the day? What else are you doing in that time that's going to sort of help you drive towards your goals and stuff like that? And I used to be, I'd be over the moon if someone came in, and right or wrong, if they just said, look, I've been having a little bit of a look around, I found this information, I found this. It might be a little bit of like a fitness myth or something like that. But do you know what? It is something that then I can say, okay, this person's actually keen to learn. They don't just want putting through the paces, they're actually keen to learn.
Yeah, because you'll pick up, when you do look at that, you'll pick up what I think Daniel called it bro science. Bro science, where it's like people will tell you things where it's like, well, you need to eat within 30 minutes of exercising to get the maximum amount of protein. You can, like, the maximum absorption of protein you can get in. And the other one that I think it's a fallacy is that you can only digest 20 grams of protein an hour, which is why bodybuilders eat like every 10 minutes or whatever it is.
So protein, the maximum you can uptake is probably somewhere between 40 and 50 grams with each meal. The reason that bodybuilders tend to eat little and often is that when you're eating and when you're digesting protein, there is actually like a sort of synthesis that goes on in your body, like we call protein synthesis. And that happens, like I say, as you're eating, as you're ingesting protein. So if you are ingesting protein every 2 hours, you've got that process that's repairing and building muscle going on a lot more actively throughout the day, rather than just for a couple of hours after you have your breakfast and then you sort of slow down and go a little bit more dormant for a few hours until you have your dinner again and then pick it up again. So it's almost like sort of keeping their foot on the sort of accelerate, just to keep like the revs ticking away nice and low throughout the rest of the day, when it comes to, like I say, a protein synthesis. But yeah, like Hatham said, you're going to come across a lot of stuff. Do you know what? Some of it works as well, because it's better than what people were doing beforehand.
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's having the exact effect that people say it's having, and it's working, like I say, specifically in that way. You know, it's exactly the same as it's sort of when I've talked about fad diets before. I've said to people, like, if I give you an apple and say don't eat anything other than this apple all day long, like, and then you start losing weight, it doesn't make the apple magic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just means that you're in a calorie deficit. And sometimes when it comes to that, you know, it might be, yeah, eating little and often is working, but it's not because your body's only absorbing 20 grams of protein at a time. It's working because, you know, beforehand you were eating one meal a day and it was 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night and it was pizza. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it is like I say, it's not always working in the right way, but sometimes these, like I say, they gain traction because people start trying them and they do start to see some kind of results as well. So yeah, by all means, you know, go away and do a little bit of research and talk to people, and then go to a PT, go to a gym instructor and sort of have a bit crack, you know. A lot of them will stand and have a bit natter with you.
Definitely worth asking. But I think like it'll always help your fitness routine, whatever it is, if your diet matches it. So it's no good you being on a 3,500 calorie a day diet if you're not doing like, say, something like strength training. Like if you're wanting to lose weight and get cardiovascular fitness and you're doing like a big bulking diet, you're not really going to see the results you want to see.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you've got to pair them up, and like you say, buddy, it's making sure that same as everything that we do, we're being specific. You know, we're being goal specific, which is sort of where the key to personal training lies, really, isn't it? You know, it's not just called training. It's got to be specific to you, your goals, like I say, and your abilities as well. You know, I've had a lot of people over the years, like I say, oh, I'm not fit enough for a personal trainer. And that, like you say, buddy, that's kind of missing the point of, well, it's the PT's job to assess where you are and maybe match your level and just raise it a little bit and push you, rather than say, right, this is where I expect you to be on day one.
Yeah.
You know, so again, don't let any sort of feeling of expectation there put you off. And if that expectation is there, you know, maybe have a little bit of a look around, and I would advise trying to find a PT that's more suited to your abilities and maybe sort of, you know, your personality and your mentality as well.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're new to the gym, you're a little bit timid, you're a little bit shy, potentially you know, a PT that's built like a brick privy, do you know what I mean? Who maybe is a little bit rough around the edges, you know, that PT might not necessarily be a good match, you know, which is probably something else to mention before we do spin on as well. All PTs are going to be different. Everybody's got their own different style. You know, I've had members come in the gym that have approached me for PT, and I've said, look, I think you would be better with so and so. Do you know what I mean? And I've had that work in reverse as well. So don't let one experience with a PT speak for all experiences with PTs. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If you've had, like I say, you might have had a bad experience with one, don't let that put you off. You know, like I say, just maybe have a bit of conversation with them first as well before you, like I say, before you sign up to like a block of 10 sessions or something like that. You know, see if you can do like a free taster with each PT in the gym and get a feeling for which one's going to suit you better.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So of course, when we for the duration of the course and for today's session, though, we are thinking of ourselves as the instructor. You know, we're going to be the PT and everything that we're planning, everything that we're doing. And in this case, you know, it's going to be planning a fitness assessment that you are going to hypothetically carry out on one of your own clients when they come in for a session, or when they were to come in specifically for this. So we're going to be talking about understanding health and safety requirements to make sure that like I say, in this case, you know, relating to health and fitness, to make sure that we're doing that fitness test in the safest way possible and sort of adhering to policies and rules and guidelines and stuff like that. Then we're going to be talking about conducting actual sort of risk assessments on activities included, you know, like I say, if you were trying to measure somebody's explosive power and you were trying to do a box jump on, get them to do a box jump, there is of course risk assessments that we've got to think about there when it comes to, is the box secure? Make sure it is sort of not too high. There's a flat surface to land on, all of that sort of stuff. All the fun bits, mate. To do with all the like I say, all the hoops to jump through and make sure that everything's right. But of course, like I say, when it comes to specifically the health and fitness sort of area, and industry, it's imperative that we're doing things as safely as possible. You don't want a client to break a leg and need to sit out for 6 months where they could have been making good progress towards their goals. So of course, we're just trying to help people get the most out of their time. So, and they can't do that if they're hurt, pretty much. Nope. So yeah, we're going to be looking a little bit into that as well. So if we can just roll the next slide, please do. Talking about fitness assessments and why we do them, really. Like I say, it's a good idea for somebody to figure out where their start point is, from the client's point of view. It can help build a little bit of rapport, and it can help them, depending on how the experience goes, it can actually help them feel a lot more sort of comfortable in the gym environment with you, with the staff. And of course, that goes a long way to just improving the experience, and they're much more likely to sort of stick to their training programs and stuff like that as well. From your point of view as the instructor, it's really handy to get an idea on any barriers that they might have, that they might not have picked up on. They might say, oh, do you know what, me lower back hurts a little bit from time to time. That's something for you to think about. You then take them away and get them to do a squat, and you realize that the mobility isn't there. Then, that client doesn't feel that their flexibility is poor, and it might not be. But for that exercise in particular, you might just assess and be able to say, okay, from there I realize that we need to do a bit of ankle mobility work. We need to do a little bit of hamstring stretching. We need to work on opening up them hips a little bit to just increase range, which is, of course, where your expertise and your experience will come in, because, of course, a client's not going to know that, You can pick up if they've got any concerns, either sort of physically it might be to do with barriers, that they've sort of assessed themselves. It might be more sort of emotional or mental concerns to do with the gym environment, people feeling like people are watching them. It might even be sort of being self-conscious, and you know what, I know I need to get fit, I need to run, but I'm not comfortable being on the treadmill when I feel as though there's 3 people on the cross trainers behind me, and I feel like they're just staring at the back of my head, you know what I mean? So it's a really good idea to just get to know the client, get to know the gym member, and just figure out the way that they tick. That was the way I used to put it. It is just trying to figure out the way that they work. What are their sort of reservations? What are they maybe a little bit concerned about, anxious about? And then, of course, we can look at any sort of general health conditions as well and assess that. We're talking asthma, diabetes, and of course that is a scale that can go as far as you like, really. So again, it's a really good chance to just sort of check in and figure out what makes that person an individual, which is where you're then going to go and say, right, how can I put together my fitness assessment? For the sake of the day, you're going to be able, you can design your fitness assessment however you like. You can sort of think about, you can make up your client pretty much. Of course, when we're actually doing that in practice, your client coming in and telling you their goals and that sort of thing, maybe it's a little bit of training history, stuff that they've done in the past, hobbies that they do, other parts of their lifestyle as well that might just help you put the whole picture together as well, because other than that, the only information you've got is the 1 hour that you see them in the gym, and you've really got no idea what they're doing the other 23 hours. Are they sitting on the couch? Are they working in an office and they're like sedentary and sat down for like 10 hours a day? Or are they out in a farmer's field, manual labor, construction work, that sort of stuff, because of course that's going to give you an idea what the training needs to look like, what the diet needs to look like, and then of course from there you can sort of take that step back and say, right, this is stuff that I need to make sure I do in my fitness assessment. Where is he in terms of strength, where is he in terms of mobility? If their goals aren't sort of to do with running or sort of lasting for a long time, we maybe don't need to focus so much on the endurance sort of stuff. But of course, I would always make sure that there was a little bit of everything on that fitness test. Just making sure that it is, like I say, sort of nice and holistic. And
like a
certainly, yeah, definitely. And I don't think it hurts. Certainly certain members, certain clients, especially people that are really comfortable within their strengths, it doesn't hurt for a little bit of humility to say, okay, yeah, you can get on and you can push 200 kilograms on the leg press. Do you know what? But you kind of get up a flight of stairs without being out of breath.
200
Do you know what
kilograms.
I mean? 200 kilograms on the leg press.
that's
yeah. Had Ronnie Coleman in for a little walk.
That's a big leg press, that.
That is, mate. That is. And do you know what? It's normally when you see 200 kilograms on the leg press, that's when we start to see partial reps. Where they bend the knees a little bit. And
if someone can do a full like bottom to board leg press on 200, I'll be very
full
impressed.
Range.
I'll be very impressed.
It is some going like, and
because you do see like the rep where it's like normally it would be like that. That would be a full rep. It's like that. It's like just a little knee flex. That's all you get.
A slight bend in the knee, mate. Yeah.
But you still get the.
Like, you've got to. Yeah, it doesn't count if you don't do that. It's like checking in on social media. Like, you haven't had a gym session if you haven't checked in.
Or you haven't.
You may as well
like a photo of the weights on the floor. Like, you just leave them lying out and don't put them away.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Of course.
Mate, before we roll on to the next slide, I've got to tell you, like, I've seen a lot of interesting stuff in the gyms over the years, but one of the most sort of audacious sort of things I've seen was a couple of lasses that came up to the gym floor. They walked on the treadmill for 10 minutes, went over to the leg press, put a load of weight on either side. One of them sat down, put their feet on the pad, got their mate to take a picture, and then they both left.
Off. Yeah.
And then that was it. I was like, there was actually no reps done. Nope. There wasn't even a warm-up done. And you've come and taken a picture and made it out like, that's on social media somewhere, saying, hashtag leg day.
Straight on Instagram, that.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
So I know we've talked about it before, but yeah, making sure we're getting that full range of motion. Ego lifting will only get you so far, and that's probably going to lead in injuries and stuff like that. If you can't get a full rep, you need to be a little bit lighter.
It's a health and safety thing as well, really, isn't it? Like, you're not doing the full rep, you're not doing it properly, especially on the machines. Like, I always feel like if you're not doing the full thing, the machines aren't being used like it should be.
Yeah. You're trying to reverse the momentum before the machine is at the point where it's set up to reverse the momentum, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of advice just before we spin on. Yeah, if you're struggling to get the full range, you can drop the weight as well. And there's absolutely no harm in doing that for your last couple of reps. If you are struggling, if you're doing a set of 12 and you get to 10, and that 10th one feels a little bit, you're struggling to get the full range, just bring it down a notch. At the end of the day, unless you're training for strength training, in which case you would rather get the extra weight, and you would probably argue just extend your rest time a little bit more beforehand, just so you are a little bit more fresh and you don't need to drop it. 9 times out of 10 for what we're training for, we're better off dropping the weight and making it lighter and getting that full range, because we're going to hit so many more muscle fibers and burn more calories. So it doesn't matter whether you're trying to expend energy or build mass. Range of motion sort of benefits both. So we want to make sure we're getting that range. Okay, cool. So if we can spin on to the next slide, please, Bud. So talking about planning your own fitness test for your clients. So we're talking about, like I say, putting together your own sort of fitness assessment that you're going to, like I say, sort of theoretically and hypothetically sort of carry out on your client. So what does that actually involve? We've talked about it quite a lot. We've mentioned certain things like flexibility, aerobic endurance, all of that sort of stuff. But, what is it that we might want to assess, need to assess in some cases? And then how do we do that, and how do we do that safely as well? So, I always used to, on my fitness assessments, I'd be including things like sort of height, weight, because from there we can sort of assess BMI, body mass index, I would always look at flexibility, because sort of muscle tension and good movement patterns was something that I always tried to sort of work on with my clients, whether they really wanted to or not. You know, you could be training for Mr. Olympia, but you can be sure that you're stretching at the end of the session for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, then we're talking maybe a little bit more scientific. You know, looking into stuff like maybe your blood pressure, you know, body fat levels, like sort of doing skin fold tests and stuff like that. Maybe it's even body circumference measurements. You know, I talked about last week that they might be a little bit more appropriate for somebody who maybe has got a little bit more weight to lose, rather than you just, like I say, getting the skin fold calipers and go sort of nipping around the waistline. It might be easy to just say, okay, I'm going to get this tape measure and we're going to measure around. And then when I measure it again, hopefully that number will be a little bit less. And then we can say, okay, we don't need to know really what your body fat levels are doing. You're losing inches across your body, you know. So that might be, again, measuring like a thigh, a calf, an upper arm, a chest, a waist, hips, you know, all of that as well. So yeah, just pretty much the more data you've got, the more you can track, the more you can really keep an idea on how your client's progressing. And you can even really see sort of how much specific areas of your training is affecting what you're doing. You know, if you notice that, yeah, your client is really getting, you know, that they're losing inches from around their body, you know, maybe their aerobic endurance is getting a little bit better, but you can then see, okay, the flexibility isn't really increasing. We maybe do need to put a little bit of that into the training. I can maybe drop some of the other focus and some of the other exercises out of there for now, you know. So again, just it helps you update your training programs as you're going through, and sort of adapt to how your client is actually responding to the training as well, you know, which is going to be really handy for keeping things really sort of tailored into what that person needs. Okay, buddy. So we'll go next slide then, please, dude. So looking at, like I say, we had a brief look at this last week as well. Some of the kit that we can use, you know, just to give you an idea of what some of it looks like. Of course, ideally, you know, we would be doing this in the classroom. We would have sort of like a blood pressure monitor there. We would have the scales there, and we'd be able to do all of this in person. So the best we can sort of do right now is give you a look at some of these little bits of kit as well, you know. So the blood pressure monitor is of course top right. You know, we can see that we've got a cuff around the arm, and just making sure that it's nice and secure. We've got the and of course the lead that's going to come off, that's going to sort of inflate that cuff, and as that cuff inflates, it's going to be able to give you an accurate reading of the pressure in your in your blood vessels. It'll give you two numbers, which is the pressure of your heart as it contracts, and then the pressure of the heart as it expands as well, you know, because of course the heart's got two phases, as we've looked at before. It's either squeezing and pumping blood around the body, or it's expanding, filling with blood and getting ready to do exactly the same again, you know. A healthy heart, those are pretty much the only two things that it's going to do. So yeah, we get the blood pressure measurements. So if you've ever had your blood pressure done and you haven't been entirely sure what the two numbers were, there you go. You know, that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're actually measuring there, rather than it just being a little bit of a arbitrary kind of number or figure that we can just sort of see which direction it's going. And from there, you know, we can look and compare that to what's considered to be a normal, what's a healthy range to be in. And straight away we can get an idea where that person's blood pressure is. You know, I've had people over the years that have been in pretty good physical health, but, you know, due to diet a little bit and lifestyle factors, be it work, be it stress, be it, you know, kids and trying to juggle all of that, they've been in pretty good physical health, but the blood pressure's still been quite high, you know, and it's been something that we've needed to address. So, you know, it's not to say that, like, okay, someone can sort of run a 7-minute mile, we don't need to check their blood pressure. It's not always the case, you know. We mentioned before, diet can link in quite heavily to blood pressure as well. So that's always one that I would try and get in. Bottom right, we've got like your scales, or those look more like just sort of like your more typical sort of bathroom scales. Again, that's going to give you an idea, you know, whether or where that person's weight is. I've always used that as kind of like there's not really any feedback needed on the initial reading. Someone gets on the scales, they tell you the weight, or you look and see the weight. Then maybe they do a little bit of an audible gasp, and they realize that it's been a couple of years since they've got on the scales or been in the gym. Do you know what? Like I've always said, your weight, it just represents your relationship with gravity. That is literally all that is telling you. It doesn't give you any idea of you. It doesn't limit how fit you can be or how active you can be. It certainly doesn't have any effect on your value as a person, which is something that's often sort of neglected to be mentioned. I feel as though there's a lot of sort of focus around weight. As somebody who I watched somebody who was really close to me once upon a time go through a pretty bad battle with anorexia, to the point where when she got on the scales on a morning, the figure on the screen dictated her mood for the day.
Right.
If the figure had gone up, we would have the day from hell, and it would I don't want to eat anything. I've put weight on. I'm a failure. I'm a mess. All of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If the weight had come down, which of course with anorexia, it's not what you want. You're going in the wrong direction there, but it fuels the mental health side of things.
Oh, definitely.
And it reinforces that even more. That person realizes, okay, what I've been doing, not eating, hiding food, all of that sort of stuff, over exercising, it's getting me in the direction that I've been tricked into thinking that I need to be going, So from then, I've always sort of sworn to not put too much stress on the scales and the number that flashes up on the screen. It is just a handy way to assess your, like Hatham says, sort of like your yardstick. It gives you a start point, and just from there, you can tell whether the scales are going up or down in the right direction. I would say weigh yourself every week, 2 weeks tops. Depending on what your goals actually are. They might not be weight specific at all. So, do you really need to weigh yourself too often? Probably not.
Not like obsessing over it and.
Yeah, like I say, you don't need to get on every morning, because, like I say, that's going to get to the point where it's going to set your tone, and you're going to fluctuate day to day anyway. How much water have you had? How much food have you had?
That's what I was about to say. Like, if you're gonna do it at the same time. Do it either when you get, like, say, when you wake up on like a weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll weigh. That'll be your actual weight without any food or water. Like, that's what I tend to do. When I was doing it, I'd weigh myself when I was pretty much empty.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the best way to do it. And of course, if you've got scales at home, that's a little bit easier to do, especially in the sense of maybe he's doing it sort of in just your underwear or something like that as well. Yeah. Just because obviously different clothes has different weights.
Don't do that in like boots or whatever though. Like you probably need to put some clothes on if you're gonna go and get weighed anywhere else.
That's it. Yeah. It tends to be frowned upon going into the gym fully clothed and then starting to get your kit off and going and getting on the scales. Yeah. Yeah, so if you've got some scales at home, it's a little bit handier to do, but that would be where I would say just be mindful that you're not doing it sort of obsessively, and it's not your only indicator of how things are going, because what's much more important: your energy levels, your confidence, sort of how your clothes are fitting you. Can you get into clothes and maybe it's that nice dress that you haven't fit in for a few years, or that nice pair of jeans that you really like, or something like that. There is so many more indicators that what you're doing is working, other than getting on the scales to see whether that number's coming up or down, and probably another thing worth mentioning as well, that of course with females, and when they come around to their monthly cycle, that's going to interfere with your reading as well, so you might actually get on the scales and be a couple of pounds lighter one week when you feel as though you've really sort of been on the ball with your nutrition and your training the week before, and it might throw you off. And of course when you feel as though you've really applied yourself and it still hasn't worked, that's where it's easy to drift off the rails a little bit, isn't it? It's like, well, what I was supposed to be doing didn't work, so I might as well just go and get it. Like, I'll get myself a takeaway for tea tonight, and maybe get back on it whenever. Do you know what I mean? Even if you convince yourself that's going to be a day or two, like I say, don't let the number on the scales be the only thing that you're using to assess, which is of course where this fitness testing comes in. And like I say, a fitness instructor will do it to a certain level and be a lot more sort of in depth. There are certain elements you can do just by yourself to sort of see what's going on, whether it's getting on the scales, checking your resting heart rate, which is what the lady's doing up in the top left. You know, it looks like she's got like a fitness tracker on her wrist as well. Yeah. So we've got that technology there, and of course taking your pulse maybe to see if the number on the screen and the number that you're reading sort of lines up, if they're anywhere near. At the same time, just being able to do that and put your finger on your pulse is a handy skill to have as well if you don't have access to a fitness watch or a fitness tracker or anything like that, because of course we don't all have access to that, you know. So what you would normally do really would just be to take two fingers and put them either on the neck or the wrist. Yeah. You see, I've seen people over the years do it with the thumb, which can actually give you a bit of a misleading reading sometimes, because your thumb's got like a very slight pulse itself that you can feel when you're pressing on. So yeah, that might actually give you more beats than you should be getting as well. So again, you know, we just, like I say, we're just using two fingers. Check your wrist, check that vein or artery in your neck, and just see what's going on there as well. And then, of course, coming into that bottom left-hand picture, we've got a couple of bits that we can use, namely the stopwatch. You know, which namely, like I say, for aerobic endurance, how long does it take you to run this distance, or move this across this distance? Of course, your stopwatch is going to be something that's going to give you that information and see if you're actually doing that. Yeah. Faster each time as well. You know. At the same time, you know, it might be a case of how long can you hold a position. So it's not just a case of how long can you run. It might be me saying, okay, we're going to come into a plank, and I'm just going to sort of maybe do a little bit of testing on your core strength and some joint stability. We'll just get you in a plank, see how you're doing with that. And again, set the timer away, say how long it takes you to sort of fail or drop. You know, that is what we will call it, you know, failure. I hadn't thought about it up until I remember working with a client once, and every session that I did with him, of course, I would track the weights that he'd done. I would track how many reps he'd done, how many sets, and then I would send him away to do that session again in his spare time. Yeah. And he would just use the numbers that were in front of him that I'd sort of racked down. He came back to me one week and he said, Rob, I didn't know whether you wanted me to do this because you've just written down that I've failed at it. You've just written failure in the box. I was like, mate,
you're a failure.
I was like, mate, that sounds so harsh. I was like, you should know me well enough by now to know that I'm never going to call you a failure. Never mind, write it on your fitness plan.
It's like a big rubber stamp across the top.
Pretty much, yeah, bang, yeah. It may as well have been in like block capitals. But yeah, you know, I was able to explain to him there and then that, you know, failure means you've worked until you can't go anymore. You know, you've sort of given up. And like I say, that might be the case of just holding the plank as long as you can. And if it's like 2 minutes till failure, you're doing really well getting 2 minutes. But yeah, that's what that means. You know, if you hear training till failure, that's what that one is. So yeah, a couple of different bits of fitness kit on there. You know, there are a lot of different methods that we can use to assess fitness. Some of them involve kit, like I say. Some of them just use pretty much just yourself and some resources that might be a little bit more readily available to you. You know, I've done things like how many times can you get up and down the stairs during a commercial break, you know, which is normally going to be sort of like 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, something like that. You can set a timer away, or you can just say to yourself, right, I'm in a break. I'm going to see how many press-ups can I do? How many press-ups can I do till the program comes back on, that sort of thing. And on the next break, you know, assuming that commercials are going to be pretty much the same sort of length, can you go again and try and get more, you know? Which is hard to do when you're doing them successively because, of course, you're tiring out.
Within so you realise how quickly you tire out as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Comes at you fast.
Yeah, it really does. Especially second time round. You know, if you're saying, right, we'll do that again, just get another reading, see how it lines up. Yeah. That second reading's never going to give you the same number because, of course, they're already sort of fatigued. So yeah, like I say, again, making sure that we're assessing the thing that we're actually trying to assess. Okay then, buddy, if you don't mind, go next slide then, please, bud.
Are we using equipment and technology, or are we on the
that is one? No, that is the one, bud. Is that the one we're on?
Yeah, we're on that now.
Yeah, okay, cool. He's already beaten us to it. Okay, guys. So I am just to let you guys know, I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing comments in the chat this morning. Again, if there's anything that you are sort of stuck with specifically, or anything that you do need, maybe a little bit of information about, by all means, drop me an email as well. But I've got here from keeping one eye on the chat for us as well this morning. Okay, cool. So using equipment and technology, of course, comes with its own sort of pros, cons, and risk assessments that need doing as well. So, we sort of mentioned last week, we've had a little bit of a recap again this morning. What's the kit technology that we can use in our fitness assessments? And like I say, you've got the option of including pretty much anything you want in your fitness assessment, like I say. So blood pressure readings are going to be taken by using like a blood pressure monitor, like we've just sort of taken a look at. I sort of mentioned that we're going to secure the inflatable cuff around the client's upper arm, using the power button to click it on. That cuff's going to inflate, and from there it's going to give you the observed readings, systolic and diastolic pressure. So when it comes to delivering your fitness assessment, of course, I'll just sort of say before we go into loads of different methods, it's important to let your client know everything that you're about to do. Bonus points if you can tell them and let them know why you're about to do it. It just lets them know, that they're about to be touched. You maybe going to get into their personal space. It's going to be a lot more important. Again, as you know, we're coming out of lockdown. There's still social distancing in place. Even when social distancing's gone, you're going to need to make sure that people are okay with you stepping in that 2 meter, 1 meters, and just putting hands on them pretty much. Like I say, it might be the first time for a lot of people, as we're coming back to doing this sort of thing, and like I say, getting up close with people again as well. So of course, make sure your client's comfortable. That's going to be the case throughout your fitness assessment, and of course, it should be the aim for all the sessions that you do and the experience that you try and give them in the gym. But like I say, specifically when they're coming for their fitness test, you need them to be comfortable. So we're making sure that they're sat down. We're being nice and polite. We're thinking about our manners, our body language, making sure not to fasten the cuff on too tight on the arm. Making sure it's not going to nip as it inflates. Can you maybe ask the individual to roll up any sort of sleeves that they've got, remove sort of thick jackets, hoodies, that sort of stuff, to just make sure that you're going to get an accurate reading and it's not going to be tighter than it needs to be as well.
Yeah.
There is a section in your workbook to put in some of the sort of problems that you might come across as well when it comes to using some of this kit. Some clients might not be comfortable with you touching them, but then we're thinking about stuff like making sure that the machine is in working order before we start using it. Has it got batteries in? Are the batteries actually going to work? Is there a leak? Is there a hole in the air hose? Is the screen working the way it should? All of that sort of stuff, it's stuff that we need to think about as well, to just make sure that we're prepared.
Yeah.
Because, of course, exactly the same with your fitness. When we start to realise what barriers we might come across, we can be a little bit more prepared for them, be it spare batteries, spare hose, all of that sort of thing as well. So yeah, there's a couple of different bits to think about when it comes to using these blood pressure monitors, but they are a really good bit of kit for giving you, like I say, some deeper insight to where that person is and their start point. Okay, so that's pretty much all I can think of when it comes to using the blood pressure monitor. Like I say, just making sure that your client sort of sat down nice and comfortable, and you've given them a heads up what it is that you're about to do. And like I say, if you can start to educate them at this point, really, really early on in the training program, it might sort of breed a little bit more intuition and a little bit more interest as you go through the rest of it. Like I say, I've had members that just clients that just want to turn up and they just want beasting for an hour. They're not particularly interested in what they're doing or why, specifically why they're doing it.
Yeah.
But I've always said the part of being a PT is educating your client as well. That knowledge where 6 months later, they shouldn't need your guidance, really. Yeah. They might still need you for motivation, but they shouldn't really need you, especially when it comes to the basics, trying to, like I say, educate the client to go away and sort of do their own thing, do their own research. And the earlier you can start sort of explaining to them why you're doing what you're doing, you can start actually get them involved and like I say, sort of engaged in that process as well. So again, it's a really good time to start letting people know why you're doing what you're doing. I don't know about you, buddy, but it's the first thing I always ask. If somebody says you need to do this or this needs doing, I like to know why. Like, I like to know why I'm doing a certain thing, so I can I know what the objective is, and I can tailor everything to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know what the crack is, don't you? Then,
yeah,
you know where to go next.
Yeah, and you feel like it feels like more of a partnership as well. It feels a lot less like you saying to your client, right, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
You're actually asking them to show a little bit of interest, maybe take away some of the stuff that you've talked about, because like I say, once you've started to educate somebody, then hopefully stuff that they're doing in the gym by themselves will start to be a lot more sort of productive and effective towards what it is that they're actually trying to train and do, like I say, a client coming in to train to put size on, if I tell them, look, okay, we need you in a calorie surplus, really. So we need you eating more than you're burning pretty much to start building that muscle. I don't necessarily expect to see that person next time they're in the gym by themselves running on the treadmill for an hour and burning like 1,000 calories or whatever it's going to be, because that is actually eating into their progress, So again, keeping them educated, starting to relay that information over can actually give them a little bit of an idea what they should be doing while they're by themselves as well, when they do have a little bit of free rein. And like I say, give them an idea what they should be doing. Okay, cool, buddy. So we'll go next slide, please, mate. And we're looking at bathroom scales again. So bathroom scales are used to find out somebody's weight, turn them on, ask them to stand on. It might be one of them awkward sets of scales where you need to wait for them to go to zero and actually sort of like settle at zero before you stand on. Otherwise, mine tells me that I've stood on too soon. Does it all the time.
Like question marks or whatever.
Oh, man. Yeah. Does my head in. I've been a little bit of a confession to make. I was a little bit of a dunce. I've been trying to weigh the dog.
Yeah.
Trying to weigh the dog to make sure that he's he's growing at a healthy rate and we're not over or under feeding him. I've been trying to get him to sit on the scales at the right time to get the figure, and mate, that is impossible because on that set of scales, oh mate, I'm giving him treats, I'm telling him to sit, but trying to get the timing right in that little window, it takes a little bit more sort of.
You get the vet to do all that stuff, like definitely.
It does. Well, mate, do you know what? I weighed myself, and then I picked the dog up and weighed myself again and looked at the difference.
Okay, yeah.
That was how I did it. And do you know what? I can't believe I've spent 3-4 weeks doing it the other way. I was like, why have I not just done this? And looked at the difference. But of course, like you say, the vet does all that for us as well.
Right.
But we're not. We've gone like a couple of weeks between vet visits as well, but yes, some scales do have that little awkward window that you maybe need to give them a little bit of a tap, wait for them to get on at the right time, and then you're going to get on them. Yeah,
and probably do it in the same place as well, right?
Yeah, certainly on the same surface. Yeah, definitely. That's something that's worth mentioning. And again, something that we can think about when it comes to problems using that kit. You're going to start getting different readings if you moving scales around the place. If you've got them on a different surface, of course, it's best to have them on a good hard solid surface, rather than anything that's given a little bit of cushioning underneath. So you're better off on like a wooden floor, a tile floor, a lino floor, rather than like a thick carpet or something like that, because that's going to take away some of the pressure. And give you an inaccurate reading. A lot of scales will give you the option of changing what you are measuring in as well, be it pounds, be it ounces, be it stone, be it kilograms. So you can make that a little bit more relevant to the client's goals, and maybe how they've weighed themselves in the past. You tend to find that it seems to be a little bit more common outside the gym. For people to use stone. They might be like, oh, I'm 11 stone for the first time in my life. I've got to lose a little bit of weight or whatever it's going to be. Whereas, with bodybuilders, it tends to be, oh, I'm up to 90 kilograms. So again, depending on how that person's used to measuring their weight, if they've done it before, if you can measure it in a way that they're familiar with, it gives them a little bit more reference as well. You know, if someone's used to saying, "Oh, I'd like to get down to 10 stone," and I say, "Oh well, happy days, you know, we're 60 kilograms." They're like, "Is that 10 stone? Is that less than 10 stone?" You know, so some scales will have like a little button on the back that you can sort of toggle through.
Press the old button.
Yeah, and make sure that you're measuring in again what it is that you want to be measuring it, and like I say, that can help you make them a little bit more relevant to your client's goals. Another thing worth mentioning, you know, when it comes to using these bathroom scales, we've mentioned the surface that you've gone them on. I would always check the underside first as well. You know, are the feet secure on the bottom side? Is it going to wobble? Is it going to tilt to one side? Not only for your readings, but of course you need your client to have good balance on there as well before you even try and start testing. You know, it's something to think about. If you've got a client that maybe can't balance on the scales, sort of unassisted, because of course any assistance they're getting, they're transferring weight elsewhere, and that's going to interfere with your reading. So you can actually get sitting down scales as well, you know, where you can get the client to just sit, and that's going to give you a reading that way. So again, make sure that you've got the appropriate scales for your client. Make sure that they've got good balance before you're asking them to stand on the scales. At the same time, you know, it should go without saying, but you know, like I say, you'll come across all sorts in the gym. Stand on both feet. Make sure you've got your balance, and just stand nice and central. You know, don't need to be jumping around. We don't need to be balancing on one leg. Like I say, you think that should go without saying. There's reasons that I'm mentioning it. You know, I have seen it done. So yeah, making sure that your client's got balance, the scales are balanced. You know, not in the way that you would think when you're thinking about balancing the old scales. Yeah, just make sure that they're nice and secure on the feet as well. And yeah, just make sure that there's nothing in their way that's going to give you sort of false readings. And like Haytham mentioned earlier on, you know, try and do it at the same time, in the same state, to make sure that you're not going to be getting any false readings and sort of throwing yourself off. Okay, cool. So yeah, a couple of little bits to think about when it comes to the bathroom scales. So if we can go next slide, please, buddy, or unless you're already there. We're looking at talking about tape measures, you know, thinking about so I'd mentioned sort of earlier doing circumference measurements around someone's waist, around their hips. At the same time, you know, you could maybe use it to gauge somebody's height, you know, depending on how long your tape measure actually is, and the unit or the metric that you'd like to be measuring height in. So tape measure can be used to measure the width around certain body parts, like I say, hips, legs, arms, waist, etc. So repeating it again later on can tell you if that area is getting larger or smaller. Like I say, I've had clients over the years that are training to lose. They've come in and said that they're training to lose weight. And I've helped them rephrase that, and I've said, no, you're training to lose body fat. There's a difference.
Yeah.
You know, and us weighing you isn't going to give us really an idea of how much fat is converting over to muscle. You know, because like we've mentioned before, muscle actually weighs more than fat. So you can be the same weight, but if more of it is muscle than was fat in the first place, you can actually be in a lot better shape. You know, your body composition is going to be better. You're going to have more muscle, less fat, while potentially weighing somewhere around about the same sort of weight as where you started. So that is where circumference measurements came in, because like I say, although you're building muscle, you're actually going to sort of thin down and streamline and tone up really as you're building muscle and as you're losing that sort of body fat, you know, so those readings should come down, you know, even if you are building quadricep muscles, if you're burning the fat on top of them, your thighs, in theory, every 2 weeks should be a little bit skinnier, you know. Then you might get down to the point where you're saying, okay, we're not going to lose much more fat. These numbers coming down even further means that we're losing muscle, which isn't something that we want. So, you know, we can still do these body circumference measurements to make sure that we're not overtraining now and eating into our calorie surplus, because we are maybe now trying to build a little bit of lean muscle. Now would be the time to make sure that we're not actually losing inches or centimeters around those areas, because that means now that we're sacrificing muscle. That might be the time that you could go to the old skin fold calipers and stuff like that, and start taking sort of more specific body fat readings, you know, like I say, nipping the waistline, doing around the scapula, whereas it's quite a common sort of deposit area for body fat as well, you know, and the back of the arm, round your shoulder blades and above the hips is where you would go to when it comes to the skin fold calipers.
Yeah.
Now, again, when it comes to using tape measures and calipers, I'll throw in there while I'm on them. One problem that you might come across is that you've got to make sure you measure in the same area each time. You don't want to be 2 inches higher on the thigh, because that's going to be wider than, you know, the area down by the knee that you measured last week, and that might give you the false sense that, you know, things are going in the wrong direction, or aren't going in the direction.
How would you do that? How would you make sure you're doing the same bit? Just like, obviously, because if you're doing your back, for example, it's quite tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I always try and give myself almost like a landmark, you know, depending on that client. When it comes to the waist, I'll go around the belly button, because the belly button's going to be in the same place next time.
You know, anyway.
You'd like to think so. Yeah, you'd like to think so. If I'm going around the thigh, you know, I'll either make sure that I'm kind of as high up as you can get while it's still while the client's going to be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, chances are you're going to get a good feeling that that's around about the same place every time, you know, or if you're doing it on bare skin, you know, even I've used birthmarks, I've used tattoos. I've used tattoos on, like I say, on arms to make sure I'm measuring the same area at the same time. If you've got clients that come in similar or the same leggings, or you could even say to them, look, come back wearing the same leggings. I know that I've measured from like the second stripe down down the side of your leggings. Do you know what I mean? I can go from there. There's a couple of different ways you can do it, but make sure that you're using one of them rather than just going in blind and saying, right, I've slapped this tape measure around your arm. It says that your number's coming down. You know, and an unscrupulous PT might use that to convince you that you're making progress when you're not actually.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh yeah, you've lost weight this week, you're losing inches. Like, no, you've just measured my kneecap rather than like the top of my thigh like you did last week. You know, so again, we're making sure that we're trying to be consistent, you know, because it comes down to sort of any test, any experiment, you know, we need that consistency. We need as many, or that particular variable to stay the same to make sure that other stuff's giving us an accurate reading, you know. So yeah, that is definitely something to think about when it comes to tape measures as well. Again, you know, we've got to give our client a heads up and tell them that you're about to measure them. And again, you know, can you ask them to remove hoodies? You know, is it appropriate? Have you got the facilities to be able to say to them, look, I'm going to measure sort of part of your thigh. You've got quite thick joggers on. Do you mind? Like, are you sort of, are you dressed appropriately to be able to sort of maybe lift that jogger leg up high enough to get it, you know, or maybe take that person to one side, and you can give them a heads up and say, okay, can you wear some briefs, you know, or can you wear like a pair of shorts under your kit or as your kit this week, just because I need to make sure that I'm getting a good accurate reading on your leg, you know. You know, there's a couple of ways around that as well, and of course, giving people a heads up. The more notice they get, the more less likely they are to be sort of blindsided by something like that, where, you know, you're not in a totally isolated area, because that's something that we're going to talk about later on, protecting yourself against, you know, any sort of claims and stuff like that. So you don't want to be in a quiet area of the gym and all of a sudden you're saying to somebody, right, drop your duds, I'm going to measure your legs. Pretty much. Do you know what I mean? That's never going to go down well, and that's going to that's going to maybe put the frighteners on some people as well.
Especially if it's like the first time they've ever met you, and you just like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm just gonna you need to take your pants off. What?
That's it. Oh, it's like going to the doctors for an ear infection, isn't it? And they say, drop your pants.
Like, you know what? No, actually, I'm all right.
Yeah, because especially if they don't realize why you're doing what you're doing as well, they might be thinking, well, I'm only here to get a little bit more aerobically fit, You know, I only want to be able to go out for family walks with the kids and the grandkids and take the dog out and that when the whole family goes.
Yeah.
You know, why do you need me to drop my trousers and why do you need to measure my legs? So again, the more this might be part of testing and an area of assessing that you don't need to do depending on what your client's training for. But again, it is something that I would normally try and work towards. And like I say, it just gives you a bigger idea of the whole picture that's going on as well, you know. So again, beyond just keeping the client comfortable, all of that sort of thing, you know, we want to make sure that the client's stationary before you start measuring them. If they're trying to move around and do whatever, and you know they're not really engaged and focused on what you're doing, you sort of get down behind them to start measuring around the legs. They go to take a step, you know, they sort of trip on the tape measure and down they go, and all of a sudden you've got a world of pain going on, you know, because falling over in the gym, there's a lot of stuff to hit on the way down. Be it barbells, be it kettlebells to land on, be it other people to fall into and whatever they're doing. So, you know, we need to make sure that the client, again, nice and stationary, sat down where appropriate, if appropriate, again, to make sure that they're ready to be measured, and just let them know what you're about to do and let them know the areas that you're about to work. You know, don't say to them, I'm going to do some circumference measurements and I'm just going to do your hips and waist. And then next thing you know, you're doing arm, inside of the leg, calf. You'll be like, well, hang on a second, you didn't mention any of this.
Aye.
You know, so again, the more notice you can give people, the more comfortable they're going to be. And of course, it gives them a chance to say, look, I'm not particularly comfortable with that. It might be something we can look at down the line. And then, of course, it puts you in the position to say, okay, that's perfectly fine. Just to give you a heads up, that is quite an important piece of information that I'm going to need, though.
Yeah.
So maybe start trying to get your head around the idea of doing this thing that you're not so confident of right now. And do you know what, mate? Sometimes they can just be getting them on the scales. Sometimes they don't even want to get on the scales. They maybe are a little bit scared to see the damage of the last 10 years since they checked in with their fitness and their body and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's you know, when it comes to bathroom scales, some people don't want to get on them. Some people, you know, are too heavy for our regular sort of scales, and they need more sort of specialist scales. So, you know, you might come across people who you know, can't use the scales that you would normally use. Are there other ways that you can sort of assess other bits as well? You know, so again, you know, that there are going to be snags that we do come across. And again, the more you do it, the more experience you've got, the more you realize how to work around some of these problems. Batteries is probably worth mentioning with the bathroom scales, just like the blood pressure monitors as well. The amount of times I've had my scales on me in my bag, and it doesn't flash up low battery until I get them out and get my client on them, and all of a sudden it's low battery, and I'm like, okay, I'm at the gym 8 hours today, and I've got another 5 fitness tests to do. That's handy. I mean, of course, making sure that you've got spare batteries in your kit can just help avoid that. So yeah, a couple of little different bits. When it comes to tape measures, of course, I would just say make sure that they're not split, torn, anything like that, you know, that they're not going to snap while you are measuring. It's certainly not going to do anybody's confidence any good, you know, if they're there to lose weight and you wrap the tape measure around their thigh and all of a sudden the tape measure pops. If it's someone who's lifting and it works on their biceps, I'm sure, you know, you'll be their best friend if you can convince them that they've popped a bicep with the tape measure with their bicep, you know. But and the majority of people, that's not going to send the right message. And of course, you know, you can't get reading then, you know, once you've knackered your tape measure. So again, just making sure that it's fit for use and all of that sort of stuff as well before we roll on. A couple of other bits that I would want to mention would be it either sort of like a height chart. You know, we've mentioned taking your weight. Another important piece or another handy piece of information to have is somebody's height. Not necessarily to say that that's something that you can work on. Trust me, if you could do a training for height, I'd be 6 foot by now. But at the same time, you know, it can help us pair things up with, you know, when we want to do our BMI and check our body mass index, you know, we need our height as well to be able to look at that grid. So your BMI is another resource that you might use. It's not a physical piece of kit that you're going to use. It's more just a scale or a chart that you might have printed off, might have saved on your phone, might keep in a folder somewhere to be able to say, okay, we've done your weight on your scales. I've used me sort of height chart or my measuring stick to see how tall you are, and then we can find where you are. We can track that on the BMI, and we can say, okay, according to this, you are a little bit underweight, you're in an ideal sort of weight, or you're maybe a little bit sort of overweight, and
Yeah.
I've mentioned before, it's not the be all and end all, because sometimes you can get some quite misleading results. Again, coming back to the whole muscle weighing more than fat, if you put an Olympic bodybuilder on the BMI chart, they're going to show up as clinically obese just because they've got that much mass compared to their height. But that's what they're training for. They're not necessarily unfit. They're not really at risk of a heart attack the way that someone with sort of genuine obesity might be. But at the same time, it can give somebody a bit of an idea for a starting point, because chances are the person that you're measuring isn't Mr. Olympia, or isn't a bodybuilder, or isn't a strongman.
Maybe they'll get there, but not yet.
That's it. So that's just something to bear in mind as well when we're using BMI. It's not always the most relevant, but of course you can then track from there and see, depending on your client's goals and the direction that you'd like to be going, can you use that sort of in a month's time, 2 months' time, and see, are they moving in the direction that you'd be expecting them to go? And again, that just reaffirms to them that the training that you're doing is working, because clients they're paying for the time, they're paying for the service, they're paying for personalization, they're taking time out of their day to come and do it. They're putting trust in you, they're putting trust in your ability and your knowledge. Sooner or later, you need to show them that it's working. They need sort of almost like it's like validation of like, okay, I'm doing the right thing here. Yeah, I am moving in the right direction. This was a good choice, and that is where, from a business point of view, of course, that client's more likely to stay, go away and speak to their friends, speak to their family. No worries, man. Yeah, no worries, man. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff that we can use, like I say, when it comes to testing fitness. Your BMI, like I say, it's not going to be the be all and end all, but it is just another thing that we can come back to. Like I say, height's another one. Flexibility, we'll use what we call a sit and reach test. Like I mentioned before, where you'll sort of seat yourself with your feet usually flat against like a box. So your legs are pretty much fully extended, and you're going to try and reach and come past, or see how close to your toes you can get, or how far past your toes you can come. And that's going to give you an idea about how flexible your hamstrings are, how flexible your lower back is, even your upper back sometimes, because it is also linked, that posterior chain. If you've got a tight lower back, your hamstrings are going to max out their range a lot earlier, so you won't be as flexible. So sit and reach test is a really good one. So yeah, you're pretty much just kind of sitting down, reaching forward, and you're just trying to see how far you can come. You'll take the measurement. Okay, I've got 10 centimeters past my toes today. And of course, to measure that that's going in the right direction, we'll be making sure that that number is increasing each time. Again, the focus that you're going to put on that depends on how much your client's flexibility needs to get better. If their flexibility is already pretty good, you're not necessarily going to need to assess that every week, and you're not going to need to train for that to improve every week, especially if they're doing stretching, yoga, all that sort of stuff in their own time as well, and thinking about their movement patterns. We're just making sure that, like I say, utilizing all this kit as best as we can, really, and just being aware, like I say, of problems. Some people sit and reach test, they're not even going to get down to their toes. They won't even reach. They're going to be in a zero reading at first. Once upon a time, I'd have been in the same place. Can you get them to sit down? Can they get down to the floor to do the sit and reach test in the first place? You're going to have some clients where asking them to sit down on the floor in order to do a bit of testing is not going to really be realistic. Someone with bad knees, bad hips, bad ankles, is it safe to, in that case, say, I'm going to assume that your mobility is not going to be great? Can I assess it in other ways before I'm asking you to sort of get yourself down onto the floor, do this awkward sort of sit and reach test, and then ask you to stand yourself up afterwards as well? There are other ways to check flexibility as we build up to that. If someone's not able to do that, can we do things like I mentioned to you the other week, Hatham, where we're talking about just sort of doing sort of shoulder mobility drills and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Talking sort of sitting with your back flat against the wall. You're going to come back so your elbows and the back of your hands touch the wall as well. And you're just going to try and sort of slide your hands up and make sure that, or see how much your hands actually pull away from the walls, you know, and because that'll give you an idea how tight your shoulders are, because a tight shoulder sooner or later is going to want to come forward rather than sort of staying right back, you know. So that is another way we can sort of assess fitness if you've got a client who maybe can't get down on the floor to do a sit and reach test, you know, because like I say, that is a little bit awkward. I've had, in fact, just this last weekend, I was speaking to somebody who's hurt his back. He's hurt his back at work, and I'd recommended a little bit of foam rolling.
Yeah.
Which of course is my go-to for a lot of pain, a lot of tension, all of that sort of stuff. But he said, look, it's hurting that much. I don't think I'm going to be able to get down to the floor to roll on this foam roller. So what I'd said was, hey, just take it, just like borrow mine, and just put it against the wall, but like lean against it, you know. I know, Haitham, you absolutely love your. Is it a tennis ball you use or a lacrosse ball?
It's like a foam ball. I bought a special.
It is, yeah. Oh, like a proper fitness one, then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you can get like they're going to come in different sizes and stuff like that as well as always, but you can get like, it's essentially like a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball that's not got a great deal of give in it, you know. So as you lean on it, it's not going to just buckle under your weight, it's going to press into your muscle tissue. And actually work exactly the same as a foam roller would, or as like a proper sports massage would, where you're digging into the muscle fascia, where you're digging into the tissue, and you're actually helping release trigger points, lactic acid, waste product, all of that sort of thing, tension. And that is a way we can do that without needing to get on the floor and roll around, because like I say, that wasn't the first individual that I've spoken to that I've needed to do that. Of course, the nature of my PT and the way that I went, certainly later on in my PT career, I was doing a lot of working with injuries, bad knees, bad backs, all of that sort of thing. So the majority of clients that I was working with, I wouldn't necessarily have been able to get them on the gym floor to do foam rolling and stuff like that. So we've had to have a little bit of a work around there as well, you know. So when it comes to your sit and reach test, just be aware that there's other ways we can assess flexibility as well. And that is something that you're going to come across as well. Okay, so like we've sort of mentioned, these really aren't the only bits of kit or the only bits of tech that we can use when it comes to our fitness assessments. You know, like I say, we've mentioned stopwatches, we've mentioned be it cones, shuttles for laying out courses, that sort of thing, you know, be it sort of like aerobic endurance, bleep tests, all of that sort of stuff that we've talked about. Like I say, there's a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of different tests you could do in your own fitness assessment. So what you need to, what we need to start doing is get an idea what your fitness assessment is going to sort of involve, what's going to be included in that fitness assessment, and then we need to start thinking about what pieces of kit you're going to need to carry out that fitness.
What slide you need to be on for the next bit, mate?
The next one needs to be other things to consider.
Right, I'll leave it on that for now. We're getting a delivery. That's what that call was. So I need to nip downstairs for a bit.
Yeah, no worries, buddy.
We're getting 2 pallets of stuff delivered, and I need to take it off the truck.
Okay. Right. Yeah, no worries, man. No worries, buddy.
But I'll be doing it very, very safely with all the health and safety concerns in mind.
Nobody. You want to say a warm up first? Bend me your knees.
Yeah, definitely with me knees. Right, 2 seconds. I'm gonna go and have a deeks out front.
No worries, man. Okay, guys. So, other things to consider then. And yeah, again, just bear with us, guys. I don't have any visual on the chat. It's throwing me off a little bit. Not being able to see what's going on, who's in, who I'm talking to right now. So again, just bear with us 2 seconds till Haitham gets back, and if there's anything in there that we've missed, I'll ask him to just double check that for us. Okay, so we sort of mentioned earlier on, helping your client feel as comfortable as possible, because it's important that they understand what's about to happen, and most importantly, that they give you permission to do it. You know, that is part of the reason that we do ask, so that they have their chance to say, look, I'm not overly comfortable with that. I didn't even just, you know what, I didn't think we would be doing this today. I didn't think you would be testing this. I'm not in a position right now, you know. maybe it might be something like, I don't know, they've chucked on the gym clothes again from the other day. They've come in the same joggers or the same bottoms, and they're maybe just conscious of, I had a bit of a heavy session in these yesterday. I'd get another day out of them at the gym, but I'm not necessarily keen on the idea of somebody being like all up and down in me personal space. I'd rather feel a little bit more fresh and a little bit more prepared. That can give them a chance to just sort of voice that concern and voice that idea of, can we do this maybe next time I'm in, so yeah, always let your client know what you're about to test, and if it's something that they're happy for you to do. For example, weight, like I said earlier on, not everybody's happy to get on the scale. Some people want to get on the scales and look themselves and not tell you, so they've got an idea. It's not the most beneficial way to help someone lose weight, but that can give somebody an idea of their starting point, and they can then decide, okay, what am I comfortable with, what am I not so comfortable with, how am I feeling, do I maybe want to lose a couple of pounds before I let my PT know? Although I've never found a situation where I've sort of advised that the client knows their weight and I don't really. Yeah, so it tends to be quite important in terms of making sure that they're moving in the right direction. Again, if their weight's not necessarily linked to their goals and they're not comfortable for you to know their weight right now, do you really need to press the issue? I would say probably not. You can work on building that confidence. You can work on honing the aspects of their fitness that they've asked you to and that they're trying to work. And then somewhere down the line, you might be able to, like I say, build that confidence and break down those walls. Because like I say, it all comes down to how confident the individual's feeling as well. So yeah, there's that to think about. Okay, so once they've given you permission, tell them and let them know why and how you're going to do it. Yeah, so okay, it's one thing to say, right, I'm going to do your body fat measurements. Okay, happy days. Different thing when you get out the skin fold calipers and you come over and start nipping at the waistline and stuff like that. So if you can just say, look, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And again, linking into what I said earlier on, that there's a big part of like getting the client engaged and getting them learning. It's a case of, okay, they're not just standing there feeling like they're being poked and prodded like a test subject. There's a little bit more of okay, I'm involved in this process now. My instructors let me know why they're doing this, and what parts of our training are going to benefit this and why. I feel as though like I say, that was the way I always worked. I always wanted my clients to know what was going on and why. And they're always just learning and picking up skills as well, and their sort of training ability without you there 24/7 just ups and ups and ups, because they're learning stuff that we've gone away to study specifically, and maybe it's even stuff that we've worked out through trial and error and experiences over the years as well. So I've always thought, we've got that information, we've learned some stuff the hard way. Why can't we pass that on to our clients as well? Like I say, some people aren't really bothered about learning. They just want you to like base them and like wipe the floor with them and send them away. But I found the clients that have made the best progress over their programs and stuff like that have been the ones that really do engage. And again, this is the first stage in getting them involved in that process and helping them realize, okay, this is a team effort. I don't just stand here and get told what to do and I'm going to make my goals and the weight's going to drop off and whatever. It's yo-yo. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm muting my mic. I'm not going to be able to change the slides over, so I'm going to leave them off. But if anyone wants the slides, I'll put a link to them in the description of the video. But I'll just have your camera on while you're talking through the stuff. That's all right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because like I said, I need to go and take this delivery. So I'll put your camera on in the middle of the screen. Just talk the guys through the presentation, and I'll put the slide link in the description of the video when I get back.
Yeah. No worries, mate. Yeah. So will that be just the full PowerPoint as it is, just in the?
Yeah, I'll just
in the chat.
it.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, I'll
sweet. Cool. Nice one, guys. So that should be easy enough for you to sort of go back and just catch them slides that we've missed. Right, buddy. I'll let you shoot then. Cool. Okay. So yeah. Sorry, you've got to look at me, guys. I do apologize. You just got to look at my face for the rest of the morning. Okay, so we're getting on towards kind of hitting sort of like the final stretch for the day anyway. So it might pay to think about, you know, when we do wrap up, if there is anything that you do want to go through, if there's anything that you're not sure about, you know, give me a shout if you want to sort out like a one-to-one Zoom or something like that, you know, or I'll do a group Zoom where I'll just send out a link and I'll screen share these slides and talk through them again if you feel as though that might be a little bit more helpful. Okay, right. So, guys, just finishing up these other things that we want to consider. You know, we're talking about giving people permission, or getting permission from people. Sorry, or just letting them know what's going to be going on. As always, you know, it's going to be in your fitness session, but at the same time, you know, it applies to any interaction with any members in the gym when you're a fitness professional or when you're the instructor. You know, you've got to be polite and welcoming and friendly. Approachable is a massive one. You know, like I've mentioned before, there was a lad who started PTing at the same time as me, who had more qualifications than me, just done like a sports science degree. He was really bright lad, but he just didn't have the people skills or the confidence. Do you know what? I can't put my finger on exactly what it was, but he just didn't have the ability to approach somebody, initiate conversation in a way that person then felt comfortable saying, okay, I'll come away and do like a free consultation or something like that. You know, and you're going up to somebody on the gym floor and offering them something for free that the people would normally be paying for. And now, not everybody's going to want to do that. Not everybody's going to want to sign up for that. But if you're getting more people saying no than yes to something free, you know, we've got to sit and think about why. Is it your body language? Is it manners? Is it terms that, like, terminology that you're using? You know, is it just a case of they think, okay, this is a sales ploy and they're going to try and there's going to be some hidden fees here somewhere as well, which is, of course, then you've just got to let them know that that's not the case, although it is a good chance for you to potentially promote yourself as a PT and just let them know what it is that you offer, and maybe even give them some prices at the end, you know. I signed up a lot of clients at the end of fitness assessments and stuff like that, just because they realized the benefit and the value that it would bring to their training throughout their assessment, rather than me just hoodwinking them in and saying, right, I've got you in a position where you've got to pay us now, because that was never the case at all. I would always say, here's my number, give us a ring down the line if it's not something that you're interested in now. Some of them would, some of them you never hear from again. That's the nature of business, and that's the nature of being a PT, I guess. But yeah, your body language and is going to go a really long way, you know. I found that I actually had people sign up for my PT over the years who said, look, Rob, I came to you because you were always on the gym floor answering questions, showing people how to change their technique, all of that sort of thing. You train without any headphones in yourself, so you're a lot more approachable, and just your stature and your physique in general, actually, believe it or not, makes you a little bit more approachable as well. You know, if somebody's coming in the gym, they're a little bit timid, they're a little bit unsure, they maybe feel a little bit out of place, fish out of water. You know, there's a particular sort of mannerism or potential sort of attitude that they're maybe going to respond to a little bit more, as opposed to you know, someone who is as broad across the shoulders as he is tall, you know, sitting there eating his raw chicken breast and slamming a load of heavy weights around on the gym floor, headphones in every time, not really having much conversation with members and stuff like that. Put yourself in the position where you're much more approachable, you know, especially when you're working like I was and everybody's self-employed. If you're working as a team, you know, that's on management or a head PT to say, look, guys, we need to be more uniform, we need to be a little bit more approachable as a whole, we need to be covering all of our bases, sort of thing, you know. So again, I've had other PTs recommend clients to me over the years because of my training style, and I've done it the same the other way as well, which again really helped build up confidence and a little bit of rapport with those members as well, because they know that you're doing what's in their best interest. You're not just saying, okay, sign up for my PT, I'll do what's best for you, just so you get them to block book and pay for 10 sessions, and then you've really got them kind of captive, really, I guess, you know. So yeah, just be aware of body language, how polite you are, the words that you're using, you know, and stuff like that as well. And then the last point that I had on that slide is just respecting their personal space. You know, I've kind of mentioned it this morning, and their feelings as well. You know, take their feelings into account. If they say, "Look, I'm not really comfortable, and you're doing me circumference measurements around me thighs," don't then proceed to go and try and do it. You know, while they're protesting and trying to move away. Like, just, you know, just honor their feelings. You know, you can be upfront and you can say, like I say, that is a piece of information that I'm going to need. Like, sooner or later, the sooner I have that info, the better I can be in terms of what you need. But yeah, like I say, take their feelings into account. You know, if someone's saying, "Yeah, oh, I'm a little bit anxious in the gym for the first time, I'm not really comfortable, I'm a little bit conscious of your weight," you saying, "Oh, don't worry about that." Do you know what I mean? It kind of it comes from a good place, but it kind of potentially invalidates their own feelings. They're like, "Oh, well, that way that I've felt for so long, like I've been here 2 minutes and now I'm being told that the way I'm feeling is wrong. You know, I haven't come here to be criticised. I've come here to be helped." Not that you've criticised really, but again, just be aware of the mindset that the client could potentially be in. And like I say, just listen to what they're saying to you as well. Now, that again can lead to stuff like listening to their hobbies and their lifestyle and stuff like that as well. You know, if you are, could be something really simple. You're trying to do a 1-rep max to figure out somebody's maximum strength through a particular lift. If during the lead up to that they've said to you, "Oh, look, I had a terrible day with my diet yesterday, you know, I couldn't get what I wanted for tea, I had to settle for something else, my macros were a little bit off, and then, oh, do you know what, I had an absolutely terrible night's sleep, I was up 3 or 4 times during the night, so I don't really feel great," that's going to actually impact their performance during your fitness assessment. So if they're coming to you in what would be sort of like an impaired state, and they're saying, "Look, I'm more tired than normal, I'm more fatigued than normal, I don't feel as strong as normal," you know, if you then do 1-rep max testing and some strength testing, you're then going to get a compromised figure or a compromised result, because next time they come in and they have eaten well the day before and they have slept well the night before, they're going to be a load stronger. Now, that is just because of what's going on outside the gym. That in no way valid, like, says, "Okay, that them couple of bits of training that we've done over the last week is working wonders already." That's not the case. There are other factors at play, you know. So we need to be aware of what's going on. What hobbies do these people do? You know, that might be interfering with fitness testing or their goals or stuff like that, you know. Are they do they like going out fishing on a weekend and having a couple of cans, you know, that they maybe haven't mentioned? That's something that we've got to think about. You know, are they again, what do they do for work? Are they quite sedentary? Do they sit at a desk all day? Are they lifting stuff, heavy loads? Are they moving around a construction site? It's all stuff that you need to know. And this fitness assessment is a really, really good chance to start to, like I say, break down those barriers and just sort of try and figure out what makes your client tick and what the other 23 hours of the day looks like when they're not in the gym, because that is going to be a massive factor into their training and ultimately their results, really. So yeah, we're thinking about their personal space and just listening to our clients, you know, it goes a long way. It really does. Okay, guys. Okay, so reducing risks while assessing fitness then, because like I say, we're going to be using this kit, we're going to be doing certain things, we need to make sure that we are doing them safely with as little risk to you, to the client, and to other gym members and other gym users as possible. Yeah, so thinking about it, so we're thinking about it again. I've got a little table there on the slides when you do get your hands on them. So when it comes to taking blood pressure, you know, the cuff might not fit, we mentioned earlier on. So how do we, and it might nip, you know, if it's too tight, it might actually affect circulation. So that's something that we've got to think about, you know, asking clients to remove any thick tops, sleeves, making sure that the cuff isn't in a position where it's likely to nip, making sure that it's not going to be too tight, and just really minimizing that risk as much as we can while we're using that, you know. Is it plugged into the wall? Is there a wire that you've got to think about that might be in other people's way, or that you could trip over yourself? And the hose as well. we sort of saw on that image earlier on, there's a hose that leads from the cuff, obviously that pumps the air up as it inflates. We need to make sure that that isn't there for anybody to sort of trip over. It's not too long, and at the same time, like I mentioned earlier on, there's no holes, there's no punctures that's going to potentially lead to issues or even just giving you false readings as well, so we've got to think about that. Minimizing risks when it comes to measuring someone's weight, of course, thinking about being on the scales. I kind of touched on it earlier on again, making sure that to reduce the risk of slipping or falling off the scales, just make sure that the client's got plenty of balance and can stand safely, or they're sitting down where it's appropriate and where it's necessary, and when you've got the right scales to do that as well. Again, check the feet underneath before you ask a client to stand on. Are they going to I've seen scales like if you've got 1 foot missing, and if the client's not stood in the center, it's going to drop a little bit, and of course they might then be off balance and much more likely to sort of fall and fall into somebody else's way or fall into another bit of kit as well. So that's something that we've got to think about as well. If you're using glass scales, make sure that there's no chips, no cracks on the screen, of course. Normally would go without saying, but of course it is easy to get little chips, little dings, little cracks that are a little bit harder to see as well. So yeah, before we're using any kit, just give it a once over, make sure it's in working condition. The same would go with barbells if we're doing our 1 rep max testing. If you're going to chuck as much weight on a bar as possible to do a bench press, you want to make sure that minimizing risk, we've got clips on either side of the barbell. We want to make sure that we've got somewhere to clip the bar into, maybe if it does get a little bit heavy, or you're there as the fitness instructor to spot them and make sure that that they're going to be safe. Inspect the actual weight plates themselves that you're putting on. You can make sure those are in working order. They're not going to sort of get they're not leaking, they're not dropping sand out, they're not lighter than they say they are, and of course making sure that the actual barbell itself is in working order as well, because on some of them the rivets that hold the collars or the cuffs that you slide the weight up to, sometimes those end bits can actually fall off as well, so that's something that we've got to be aware of. When it comes to loading weight on and off of the bar, depending where it is, we're making sure that we do it nice and evenly on both sides. If you've got a client stood in a squat rack ready to do a 1 rep max, and you chuck 80 kilograms on one side of the bar, that's just going to whap up into the middle and hit your client before they've even done anything, So that is something that we've got to think about as well, and putting weights back where they belong when we're done with them, because I have seen them just sort of like taken off a bar, chucked. Not only does it damage the weight, not only is it sort of heavy weights being thrown around the gym and potentially onto someone's foot or to someone's phone or someone's car keys, which I've seen done, that is also making it more inconvenient for the gym users as well. So we've got to think about that. Measuring with a tape, measuring someone's waist or whatever with a tape measure. Of course, the hazard that we've got to think about there, or the risk that we've got to think about there, would be a tape. The tape may snap, and we've just got to check that again before we use it. Make sure there's no frays in the tape. If you're using one of the sort of more metallic sort of tape measures, sort of maybe to measure somebody's height rather than, I wouldn't necessarily recommend those for circumference measurements because they don't shape to the body very well with them being metal. But at the same time, they can be handy for taking someone's height. And a couple of other little bits that we might be using when we're doing our fitness testing as well. So again, we want to make sure that's in working order. We want to make sure that if we're just going to click the little bit at the bottom and let the whole thing ravel in, it's not going to catch anybody on the way past, because that can get a little bit nasty. If you get nicked by a tape measure as it's rolling itself in as quick as it possibly can. That's something to think about. Again, the any tape measure really, we've got to make sure it isn't going to be a trip hazard or anything like that. If you put it down in between readings, so you're like, okay, I've done your waist, I'm going to put that down and write that down, so you're tracking the data. You want to make sure that you haven't just put that tape measure where it's going to be in somebody else's way and somebody else falls over it. So again, it's these simple little bits of kit, and it's stuff that we might not necessarily think of, because some of it's common sense, some of it might seem pretty obvious, But again, it's stuff that we need to be considering all the time, because that responsibility is there when you're a fitness instructor. It's not a case of considering it from time to time. It needs to be all the time with every client that you're working with, which can be a little bit more challenging, you know. Okay, guys, cool. So that'll do us for what would be that slide then. I've just got a couple of slides left to work through. The idea was to roll with a with a quick little look at the workbook at the end, but of course we can do that next week as we're finishing up, because obviously Haytham's had to nip off. But of course you should have the workbooks yourself as well to be able to have a little bit of a look, and hopefully to maybe extract what you need from today's slides and get those workbooks done. You'll notice when you do get the slides on a couple of them, I've marked out what slides you need for what for which exercise in your book that you actually need. Yeah. Okay, guys. So before just as we're wrapping up, he's back. He's back. Nice one, buddy.
Time. What have I missed?
Timing, mate. Yeah, yeah. You've only missed 1 or 2 slides, mate. To be honest, I've just been nattering. If you can just quickly boot up the
I'm trying to do. I'm panicking.
The particular slide. Oh, mate, no, absolutely no rush. It's been all right, man.
What are we up to?
We're on reducing risks. While assessing fitness, just to let the guys see the grid that's there, and just to point out at the bottom we can see that
there you go.
This will help you. Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much. This will help you do task 3.2 in your workbook. Are you back for good, buddy, or have you got to shoot off again? Yeah. Oh, nice one, cool. So we will have time to have a little bit of a look at that workbook.
We've got Wib and Gary in the chat as well. Just Gary's asking how's the ear, and Wib saying good morning, everyone.
Oh, morning guys. Are we morning? Just creeping into afternoon. Yeah, I was explaining to them. Obviously, I'm pretty snookered for looking at the chat this morning. So I just said once you'd sort of gone, I said just email me anything that you might be desperate to. Gary, the ear is still sore. She's trying to ring the doctors today to see if she can get in just to see whether it does need gluing. For those of you that missed earlier on, probably give her a little bit of a nip in the ear, and as she's gone to actually move away, just one of his little baby teeth was actually in the hole where her ear was pierced, and it just tore the other day. So yeah, she's got the job today to try and get through to the doctors to see just what they recommend, you know, glue, stitches, whatever it's going to be. But thank you for asking, buddy. I'll tell her that you're asking for sure. Couldn't believe it. We've both been bitten by him worse over the last couple of weeks. And I went down. She looked like Van Gogh. Do you know what I mean? She looked like she'd had to go taking one clean off.
Yeah, but Chainsaw Massacre, like.
Yeah, definitely, mate. But yeah, I appreciate you asking, buddy. Yeah, I'll pass the message on, definitely. Okay, guys. So yeah, just before we do spin on to that next slide, like I say, I've put at the bottom of that last slide there, which task in your workbook that's actually going to help you do, just so it's a little bit easier going back through those slides and pulling out the info that you need. Okay, buddy. So yeah, we'll go on to the keeping your client safe, and then we've only got a couple of slides left to do.
Yeah.
So we sort of mentioned earlier on, as a fitness instructor, it's crucial to make sure that your client's safe in that environment. That is during your fitness testing, but that is in the environment as a whole. Really, you know, it's not entirely your responsibility. Some of that responsibility does lie with the client. But, you know, a lot of the stuff is going to fall on you as the PT, on the fitness instructor, especially when it comes to the environment, stuff being left out, cleaning stuff, all of that sort of stuff, you know. So you've got to make sure that that client is safe. So we're making sure that our client signs in and out of the building, just in case there's a fire. You know, can you inform them where the assembly point is, what the procedure is for when there is a fire? Can you give them a heads up when there's going to be a fire drill? You know, at the same time, for you as gym staff, it helps you just look and see who's in the building and who isn't in the building. Because if somebody signs out on the way out, you know that person's gone. You don't want to sign in, you know, and then forget to sign out, to the point where, like, you've got somebody searching a burning building for you, thinking that you're in there somewhere, trapped under a bit of burning timber, mate, and like next thing you know, when you know, really you sat at home with your feet up having a cuppa, you know, because you've done your session. So yeah, that's something that I've always tried to push within the gyms, and gyms in general should, you know, signing in and signing out. You need to know who's in, like I say, just for fire safety and stuff like that. Running through other policies and procedures for health and safety. You know, is there an accident book? There should be an accident book. You know, where is it? What do you need to do if you have an accident yourself? What constitutes an accident that you would need them to come and tell you that has happened? You know.
Yeah.
You know, we mentioned stuff before about, you know, someone's doing a big squat and they feel like a pop in the back of their knee, and they don't let you know any of that feeling, and they tried coming in the next day and saying, well, I've blown out me knee ligament, I've blown an ACL or something like that. That's your fault. We could be like, well, we didn't. You didn't, right? We didn't. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't. You haven't told us that it's happened.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, we've, through your PAR-Q, I've maybe looked at it and told you that is something that you shouldn't be doing in the first place, you know, based on injuries that you've got. So again, it does kind of work both ways, but it does just give your client a better idea what is expected of them as a client, what's expected as a gym member, and all of that sort of things as well, because you might have stuff like a steam room in there, you know, which comes with its own safety rules, a swimming pool which comes with its own sort of procedures and stuff like that. So yeah, you've got to let the client know as much as possible to keep them safe. And of course, you'll have help from sort of signs around the gym, stuff like that as well. The old no running at poolside signs, all of that sort of stuff. But oh yeah, no dive bombs. That's the one. It's like, well, what's the point of coming if I can't do dive bombs, man? Yeah, I'm going home. But yeah, it can just, like I say, it just gives the client an idea what's expected of them in that environment, and just it's going to work to keep them safe. And of course, we talked last week about the PAR-Q and where a PAR-Q can be handy, so that the client's needs, such as medical issues and the likes, are known by the staff. You know, so I know if somebody's got asthma or chronic fatigue or something like that. It was actually something that I worked with before. I had somebody want to come in and join up to the gym. They wanted to pay for a full PT session.
Yeah.
I did their fitness assessment, and I was like, okay, that's great. You know, I always do that for free anyway. That's sort of like a consultation sort of thing, or part of your consultation. I got round to the PAR-Q. Obviously, like a fitness assessment, you're doing stuff in short bursts. So it didn't really have time to show up. And when it got round to doing the PAR-Q, I said, "Is there anything else that I need to know?" She said, "Yeah, I've got chronic fatigue." So I was like, "Oh, okay then. Like, well, we're done for the day now. Then we've already potentially done like a little bit more than we might have done, you know." Or like, I actually said to that person, I said, "Look, I can't rightly sign you up for PT when we only offer sessions at an hour." And I know full well that after 15 minutes you're going to be done. I said, look, I'll just write you a plan. I'll write you some ideas. I'll give you some ideas what stuff you should be doing. And of course, that PAR-Q actually helped me connect the dots and say, okay, I need to speak to your GP as well before advising certain things. So it can actually open doorways as well, and actually bring in other professionals. Because you know what, as much as I'm qualified as a PT, I've done other sort of additional courses as well to help with that. I'm not a physician. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a physio. There are certain things that are outside of your role and responsibility as a PT and as a fitness professional. And you kind of, to keep your client safe and to keep yourself safe, you need to know where them boundaries are, what you're okay and what you're advising, what you're not advising, what you're sort of telling people not to do. And you need to know when to hand that over to a different organization, a different body, a different person, and you need to have an idea who that person's going to be as well. So that kind of falls under your responsibility as a PT as well. Like I say, just again for keeping your clients safe and for protecting yourself against certain claims and stuff like that as well. So just something to think about there as well. But the PAR-Q, it's a massive sort of indicator, really, and it's a really helpful piece of kit and a really helpful resource. So yeah, if a gym isn't asking you to fill in a PAR-Q, I would be asking why. You know, I always had my own. I had so I knew any gym I went into, they would have their own, and then before anyone signed up for PT, I'd be like, right, fill this one in because this is the information that I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Now, you know, so clients that came to me in certain gyms had done 2 PAR-Qs, but you know what? I'd rather you did 2 PAR-Qs than none. Rather than me. Like I say, that lady, I could have very easily signed up to 10 sessions, 10 hours worth of PT. and really, really could have caused some damage and made a lot more ill than beforehand, because someone with chronic fatigue doesn't recover as quickly as other people as well. Like, we overdo it in the gym sometimes, and then like half an hour or an hour later, we feel all right, and then the next day we're maybe a little bit sore, but our energy levels come back. Like, I've known people do 5-10% above what they should be doing in the gym, and somebody with chronic fatigue is then potentially going to be bedridden for a week after that, you know. So it's not conducive to their goals. You'd be better off cutting a little bit short, keeping it more manageable, but being able to say, right, you can now come in 4 times this week because you're not working quite as hard, as opposed to me absolutely wrecking you, and then you've got to lay in bed for a week and not really even be doing the movement around the house and going for walks and stuff like that. It's going to knock you back over. Definitely, do you know what I mean? Rather than helping you get to where you want to be.
On the back foot straight away, isn't it? It's like, you know, you're bound to do it at some point, but like, you don't, not straight away as well. You don't want to put yourself off, like you always say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And like you say, those early interactions are your chance to really prove to that person and demonstrate to that person that, you know what, it's not even about making the sale. It's not even about getting them signed up for PT. It's about them having trust and confidence in you and your word, pretty much, you know, to say that, like, okay, Rob's asked me to do this, and I trust that there's a good reason behind it, you know. Again, normally I would be trying to tell them that reason to keep them informed, but it gets to the point where, like, it's building that trust, isn't it? Where sooner or later I'll take time to explain it, but I need you to do it right now, and I need you to not necessarily be asking questions right now, and I need you to just have trust that I've got your best interests at heart. Definitely. And of course, everything leading up to that point's got to demonstrate that, otherwise you're not going to have that trust, really, you know. Like I say, I could have signed her up for PT and a gym membership that day. I actually spoke to a GP, sent her away, told her to do some walking, had some words with the manager about losing sign-ups and members and stuff like that, and just all get people signed up. But you know what, if it's not best for the member, I'm not going to do it, you know. At the end of the day, I worked self-employed for too long as a PT to then start going into a employed role, which I actually did, but then be told to compromise certain parts of my service, because at the end of the day, it's my reputation and it's my name. Or, you know, in this situation, it's your reputation and your name. And you know what, long after you are away from that establishment, if you want to carry on, do you know what I mean, you need as good a reputation as possible, really. You know what I mean? You don't want to be that person who sign somebody up just for the sake of getting money out of them, because you know what, it is that trust thing, and that's what gives certain areas of the fitness industry bad name, or maybe sort of like shines a bit of a negative light on it, for sure. So yeah, we're always working at trust. We're always working to have, do you know what I mean? You're essentially mapping out the minimum of the next 3 months of somebody's life, really. Yeah. If you sign them up for a 12-week program, which is kind of like the minimum that I would recommend for people to see real sort of lasting change in results and stuff like that. You're telling them what to eat, when to eat, maybe, when to train, how to train. You're telling them what to do in their spare time. Maybe it's walking. You may be telling them stuff that they can't do, you know, stuff that they were doing, that they enjoy doing, that is kind of now it's their choice whether they still continue it, you know. Like I say, if you've got someone training to put a load of size on and put a load of weight on, you've just got to let them know that them going and playing or like being part of a proper football team and training 5 times a week and playing every weekend, that's going to eat into their gains, you know. So again, it's a case of like, right, I can just tell you this information. It's entirely up to you how you use it. But the majority of it, you're going to be saying to them, right, I need you to do this, 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 and this for the next 3 months. So would you listen to somebody that you don't trust when they try and dictate the next 12 weeks of your life?
You've got to trust them, but they've got to like believe in the process as well.
Yeah, definitely. Which kind of almost goes hand in hand. If they trust you and you're saying that the process is going to work, they're much more likely to believe it, you definitely. Know, and then they're much more likely to buy into it. And I guess ultimately, they're much more likely to stick to it, which is the aim of the game, really, isn't it? Consistency.
Yeah.
So that's where we want to be. So yeah, always working at that trust, and trying, and like I say, not only keeping your client safe, but making them feel safe as well. Do you know what I mean? And just helping them realize that you do have their best interests at heart. Right, buddy. So if we can go to the last proper info slide, and then we've just got the last one like normal. Yeah, keeping yourself safe, because we've talked quite a lot about looking after the client, looking after the gym members, even the kit. You know, the last couple of weeks we've talked about looking after kit and keeping kit safe. How do you keep yourself safe? You know, because it can be risky is not the right word. Risky is not the word that I want to use. But you can easily find yourself in quite compromising positions, you know, that you want to be able to navigate as professionally as possible, I would say. So, you know, carrying out the fitness and test is just important to keep yourself safe as it is to look after your client. Ways you can do this. I sort of mentioned earlier on about when you're doing fitness testing, client might be happy somewhere a little bit more quiet, somewhere a little bit more private. Make sure you're doing fitness testing in a room where either other people can see what's going on or can enter and leave freely, you know. Just so you know there are other people present, or the potential of other people present, just in case, you know, there are any sort of false claims made about stuff you've done, places you've touched, this, that, and the other. You know, it's all stuff that, you know, it's the darker side of stuff, but it is stuff that we need to be aware of. You need to protect yourself, because do you know what, as much as anything, it needs to be taken seriously when members do come forward, because when it has actually happened, you know what I mean, it really needs addressing, and it needs chasing down, and it needs acting on. So you need to put yourself in a position where you're kind of not really giving them any option to or any reason, I guess, or any reason to feel as though anything's been done that shouldn't have been done, you know. So yeah, just sort of covering your own back a little bit there, making sure that there's sort of other people around, other stuff going on. Checking out all the planned steps of your test with the client first to get permission, and explaining why you're about to do each step. Like I say, just gives them a little bit more of a heads up. They're not going to be blindsided, and maybe it's a little bit defensive when you go to touch them somewhere they're not expecting to be touched, or, you know, not confident with being touched. Which, you know, depending on the individual, it might be everywhere. Do you know what I mean? They might be pretty uncomfortable with it, with you touching them anywhere, you know. So you need to gauge how uncomfortable they are, but you need to they need to give you the go ahead to do it, really. Again, just to keep yourself safe. And then again, displaying clear professional boundaries in the way that you dress and the way that you talk, you know, in the way that you're conducting yourself with these clients. And then, of course, any information that you have on them, you've got to keep confidential and keep sort of secret and safe as well. You know, it's kind of your responsibility as the PT to not be taking someone's personal information, address, phone number, email address, anything like that, national insurance number, even just down to anything else, you know, other stuff that they do tell you in confidence. It needs to stay confidential. It's a surefire way to break the trust, and kind of to break that confidentiality that is kind of required and expected of you in that role. So yeah, we've got to think about that as well, and just storing data and results and stuff like that somewhere safe where nobody else can sort of access them that shouldn't be able to. Right, spot on, cool. So if you don't mind just loading up the last slide ever so quickly, please, bud. So it's there for when the guys do come back, if they want to just pause on this slide just to get an idea what the homework is and see what needs doing. So the homework I've put on each slide as each exercise needs filling in, but you're going to be pretty much finishing up your developing practical skills workbook, just leaving page 7 for now, because we need to actually conduct this fitness assessment, you know, be it in kind of like a Zoom call setting or something like that, and then I can give you a little bit of feedback and we can fill in those last boxes and get page 7 done. So it's pretty much everything up to page 7 should be done by the end of this week. I think we did page 2 last week anyway, so it's obviously just everything in between.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm just scrolling through it now, so just everything on all the pages. Yeah,
it is pretty much, mate. Yeah, really. But we've covered everything in there this morning, so I'm just gonna just have a quick blast through myself, and we'll just give guys a quick rundown of what's expected for each question. Oh, my bad, guys. Right. So we did 1.1. Okay, so 2.1. So yeah, we're planning a fitness assessment for your client. Okay. So that's going to be written down, of course, and that'll be submitted itself as well. Again, either just shoot a picture over on through email or something like that. 2.2 and 2.3, we've talked quite a lot about equipment that we could use, how we would use it, and then problems that we might come across with it. Batteries running out, tears in tape measures, all of that sort of stuff. But this is, of course, going to be specific to your fitness assessment now. It's not just everything we've talked about. It's just going to be stuff that's going to be in your fitness assessment, and that's going to be however you plan it. If you want to use everything that we've talked about this morning, by all means do. If you've got a couple of ideas that you want to add yourself, go for it, guys. Yeah. Okay, then we've got 3.1, describe safe working practices. So conducting a fitness assessment and a PAR-Q, taking a client's blood pressure, safely. How would you do it? And how would you make that person feel relaxed and comfortable as well? And then for part B, we're going to say for those 2 tasks. Yeah, so part A asks for 2 tasks and how you would do them. Part B asks for how you would do those same 2 tasks, but minimizing risks as much as possible. And that might be, again, checking stuff over before you use it, and all of that sort of stuff as well. Yeah. Okay, yep. 3.2 breaks that down a little bit more. It's the specific task that you're going to do, a specific risk that you're aware of within that task. So again, taking somebody's blood pressure, the cuff might be too tight, and it might nip, or it might cut off circulation. How we would minimize that, again, check that it's pretty snug but not too tight on the arm before you start inflating it. Make sure that the fastening's on there good. And like I say, maybe even asking clients to take jumpers and thick tops and stuff like that off before you start. Yeah. So again, different tasks, tasks that you will be doing, and like I say, just how you would do them safely. And then 3.3 and oh no, they're both 3.3, never mind. Suggest 2 ways you can keep yourself safe when working with clients, and then suggest 2 ways you can keep your clients safe, following safe working practices as well. Yeah, so like we just mentioned there, keeping yourself safe and keeping your clients safe as well. Yeah, and then that just leaves page 7 for us to do when we can add a little bit of feedback in there as well. And then that'll be the last of your paperwork. Of course, we've got one more session to do next week. We'll probably have a little bit of a recap on some of the stuff we've been over so far. And that'll about do us for the day then, guys. As always, I'm sure, like I say, I can't see anything this morning. I don't know what's going on, but I'm guessing that the workout video is going to be in the description of the video as well, buddy.
Pop it in the chat now.
Excellent, buddy. Thank you very much.
And the link to the book, the workbook as well.
Yeah, so that'll be there. Survey will be there. As always, guys, please don't forget to just take 30 seconds or so to fill in the survey. It helps us fill in paperwork this end, and of course your feedback's really important to us. It lets us know what we're doing well, and any way that we can sort of make tweaks to suit you guys even better, because you guys are why we do what we do, so yeah, if you don't mind just taking 30 seconds to fill that in. So workbook's there, workout video is there. Like I've mentioned a couple of times now, we've got the whole playlist there with all the videos all the workout videos that we've done. So if you do want to go and have a look and pick something that actually takes your fancy this morning, by all means do. And like I say, as always, let us know how we're getting on with that. But failing that, guys, we'll be back next week, next Wednesday, same sort of time, and we'll get things finished up. And then we can start thinking about tying up any loose ends, making sure that we're getting workbooks filled in, and getting some one-to-one Zooms booked in, and getting stuff delivered that needs delivering as well. Have you got anything you want to add here this morning or not?
No, all the links are in there. I'm just double checking the sharing settings on them, but yeah, everything's fine. Should be good. I think so. Next week, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, yeah, it is. Week 10 next week. Yeah. That'll be us done and dusted.
Brilliant.
And then we can start looking forward to term 3 as well.
Yeah. No, class.
Spot on, right, guys? Cheers for jumping on this morning, Nathan, buddy. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah. Got a busy morning at Savvy Towers as always. I'm actually through tomorrow. Actually,
okay.
I'm in the office tomorrow, so I might In fact, no, I'm not. I tell a lie. I'm going to Mel's.
Oh.
We were coming to the office, and
Yeah.
then we realised we're getting no work done, so I'm going to Mel's.
That's fair. I
Yeah.
can see why you would do
Yeah.
that.
So that's the plan. But yeah, guys. As always, stay safe. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. Easy.
Like I say, as always, as things are opening up and restrictions are lifting, just stay safe, stay vigilant, all of that.
Yeah.
And like I say, I hope you have a good week, and I'll catch you guys next Wednesday then.
See you guys.
Cool. Right, guys. See you later on.
And